Delicious.
Ooh, it's lovely. I wonder how much the wine actually costs then.
25 a bottle.
The Artisan Malbec is $5.99 a bottle.
Little surprises.
I've seen real benefits from my patients using Sensodyne Repair and Protect. It is an amazing technology. It actually does help repair sensitive teeth. If you have exposed dentine, you could get sensitivity. Sensodyne Repair and Protect helps repair the sensitive part of the tooth by actually forming a layer of material which is harder than the actual dentine surface itself, reducing sensitivity in the long term. I recommend Sensodyne Repair and Protect to my patients. It actually delivers to help repair sensitive teeth.
So we've also got a delicious Argentinian Malbec.
Ooh, it's lovely.
For the little price of only $5.99.
Me and you and me, like a flower to a bee. I'll help you, you'll help me. We'll have everything we need. Together, you and me.
Bring food to life with ketchup that's full of Heinz tomatoes.
I had the time of my life, and I hope it will be you. I had the time of my life. I never felt this way before.
If Carlsberg did supermarkets, they would probably be the best in the world. Enjoy our Easter mega deals now on at Currys PC World. Keep everyone happy over the long weekend with these smart Sony TVs. Watch your favourite programmes when you want with BBC iPlayer and Demand 5 from $379. This Hoover makes short work of the cleaning and is perfect for picking up pet hairs. At just £89, it's better than half price. And this Beko 7kg washing machine has a 1500 spin to keep drying time to a minimum. Only $189. At Currys PC World, we start with you.
Where they lead, don't follow. Take to the streets. Rebel against your state of mind. Ride your road without crowd or clique. You, unique. Go straight, forward. Think clear, mutineer. Overtake the fake. Be renegade.
"28 ordinary men and women abandoned on 2 remote desert islands. Completely alone, filming everything themselves.
I think it's fair to say we nearly got killed.
Taking human endurance to absolute breaking point.
Bring it on, Mother Nature, I say. This is the worst you can do.
The Island with Bear Grylls starts with the Men's Island, Wednesday the 8th of April on 4.
Welcome back to Cameron and Miliband Live, the battle for number 10. The Prime Minister has been interviewed by Jeremy Paxman, and now it's the turn of our studio audience to put their questions to him. So without further ado, Prime Minister, here we go. Let's start with Matthew Brown. Where are you, Matthew? There's Matthew. Let's have your question, Matthew.
Prime Minister, what do you think are Ed Miliband's best qualities?
Well, that's a tricky one to start with, but thank you, Matthew, for the question. Look, I think all of us who put ourselves forward all actually believe in serving the public, in trying to do the right thing. We disagree with each other, sometimes passionately, sometimes, as yesterday in the House of Commons, rather noisily, but we all believe in public service, in trying to do the right thing for our country. One thing I admire about Ed is that when we had to take difficult decisions about sending British forces in to help with others to try and defeat ISIL, the murderous death cult in Iraq, he stepped forward and said, yes, this is the right thing to do, David, let's do that together and vote together in the House of Commons, and I admired that.
But you did call him weak and despicable, didn't you?
We do sometimes in the House of Commons use phrases that perhaps afterwards we think perhaps was a bit over the top. I took my... Well, I remember the same day he called me dodgy and something else. So sometimes I took my children yesterday, and Nancy and Elwyn, they're 9 and 11, and they said afterwards, you know, Dad, if we behave like that at school, you know, it wouldn't be so good. So I was trying to explain. Sometimes it gets a bit heated. There is a point to it, though, which is it's the time of the week when the Prime Minister's got to demonstrate that you're across all the issues, and so it does make the government accountable to Parliament in a way that if you're not across the issues, then things will change pretty quickly. So it does have a point, but we don't always behave as well as we should.
OK, let's bring in Bridget Sam Bailey next, should we? I think Bridget's there in the front row.
Thank you.
Hi, Bridget.
Prime Minister, in a few months' time, I would be 79. I'm a retired professional. Following a road traffic accident, I've been left with physical challenges, yet I remain proactive in the community. I'm passionate about the provision of care for the elderly, and I feel that we should be treated with dignity and respect. Would you, Prime Minister, consider it appropriate to appoint a cabinet minister for older people, one who would show empathy with older people?
Well, Bridget, first of all, thank you for your advocacy for these causes, because they do really matter. And I think making sure we treat retired people with dignity and security in their old age after a full working life is one of the most important things we can do as a country. And that's why I've been so clear that the pensioner benefits, like the free TV licences, the free prescriptions, the winter fuel payments, they will continue for everybody. I think it should be your right, and we need to make that very clear. Now, I was asked this question the other day about should we have a dedicated older person's representative in the Cabinet. I will think about it, but I'm a little bit worried about it on this basis. I don't want older people's concerns to be sort of restricted to one person in the Cabinet. I want every one of my ministers to be thinking, how do we treat senior citizens properly? I want my health minister to be thinking, how do we treat people in our hospitals and in our care homes? Are we doing this right? I want to make sure that our education minister is thinking about through-life education that some people want to continue with forever. I want to make sure that our defence minister is thinking really carefully about veterans and their needs as they grow older. So I'd be worried about possibly having one person and saying they were the only person who thought about older people. In the end, as I said to this meeting the other day, you know, if we're not doing right by older people, don't blame all my ministers, blame me, because I lead the government and I think we've got to get this right. But pensioners have been absolutely key to this government about uprating pension in line with earnings, prices, or 2.5%, the so-called triple lock, so that pensioners have been protected from some of the difficult decisions we've had to take.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Let's bring in Tom Cosgrove next. Hi, Tom. You approached us via the Sky News app. Where are you, Tom?
Yeah.
Hi, Tom. What's your question for the Prime Minister?
It has been argued that we haven't seen anything yet in terms of cuts to public services. How intense will these be from a majority Conservative government?
Right. What I'd say is that we have had to make difficult decisions, and a lot of those decisions I didn't want to have to make, but I became Prime Minister at a time when the economy was close to the brink, when our budget deficit was forecast actually to be higher than Greece's, and we had to make important decisions to get the deficit down, because a big deficit means higher taxes, it means higher mortgage rates, it means lost jobs, it means an economy in chaos, and I wanted to stop that. Now, what we've done so far has got the deficit down by half, as I was saying to Jeremy, and what we need to do in the next 2 years is basically similar to what we've done so far. We've got to find £1 out of every 100 the government spends and save that rather than putting up people's taxes. So if you think of the department spending changes, it's similar to what we've had to do in previous years, and similarly for welfare. It is achievable. I wouldn't stand here and say that if I didn't believe that. I really want to do this without putting up taxes on hard-working people, because you don't tax your way to growth, you don't tax your way to jobs. We want to keep the strong economy, make these savings, and make sure that we do put aside money for a rainy day, so that when a next crisis hits, and crises do come from time to time, we don't get pushed over the edge. And that would be so irresponsible, because in the end, we've got to make sure we're not just doing right for this generation, we're doing right for our children and grandchildren. We don't want to load debts on their heads that they won't be able to pay. So what we're suggesting is manageable, it's doable, it will require efficiencies, but we can also make important commitments, like saying the NHS is special, that will get extra money every year as long as I'm Prime Minister.
Presumably, Tom, you would want a specific example, would you, of where the Prime Minister is going to save money, where the cuts might be?
Yeah.
There you go, Prime Minister.
Well, I gave, I think, a good example of saying, look, you know, benefits, in-work benefits, things like unemployment benefits should be frozen for 2 years. That will save £2 billion. That isn't an easy decision to make, but I think it's important. People can see it's better off that people are better off in work, and we try and keep on creating those jobs as we've done. And we find savings, including from efficiency. This Parliament, we've saved something like £20 billion by just being a bit smarter. We still don't have one company that owns all the government's buildings and makes sure we use them efficiently. So let's do things like that. Businesses have to do this every year. They don't get more efficient and then say, that's it, I finished. They think every year, how can we save money? How can we provide a better service without spending so much money?
Okay.
We've had to do that in one example, just quickly, policing.
Very.
The police have done a brilliant job. We have had
Prime Minister, while you're
okay.
talking about policing, let me bring in Zaid Malik, who is a police officer. It's almost as if we planned it.
Very good.
And we didn't. He's from the
Where
West Midlands. You've been a police officer for 22 years, haven't you, Zaid? Where are you?
I have, Kay, thank you. Prime Minister, my question to yourself is, would the Conservatives reverse their decision in the cutback to the police service, which is now more than ever overburdened and walking a tightrope without a safety net?
First of all, Zaid, thank you very much for your service in the police. I know that you put your lives on the line every day to keep us safe, and I have huge respect for what the police do for us. But I was about to say what a brilliant example the police had been over the last 5 years. We did have to make reductions in spending on the police, so police budgets came down by some 20%. But at the same time, the police have done such a good job that crime has come down by almost 20%. We managed to get officers out from desk jobs onto the streets. We put more civilians into some of those roles. We made sure and the police did this themselves, forces were combining and ordering equipment and things together. So I think there's still some more efficiency that we can get out of that. But in the end, we've got to back the British police, who are the best in the world, who do a great job, and they'll always have my support.
As far as Lincolnshire Police are concerned, though, Prime Minister, the Chief Constable there said that it's on the verge of collapse. He said that last December.
Well, I don't accept that. I mean, I think, I understand that they're under pressure.
Is he wrong?
Well, I think if you look at Lincolnshire, in that county as well, crime has come down because the police are doing a great job, and there's more we need to do using modern technology to make sure that crime continues to fall under this government. And if we do that, then we should be saving money as well.
Let's bring in... thank you, Prime Minister. Were you happy with that response? So...
no comment.
OK. Rosemary Fraser is joining us now. Hello to you, Rosemary. Where are you? What's your question?
Good evening,
Hi.
Prime
Hi,
Minister. Hi. It's 20 years this year since the passing of the Disability Discrimination Act in the UK. Yet, if you're disabled, you're still twice as likely to be unemployed. It's getting harder year on year to get vital social care support. And attitudes towards disabled people are hardening and hardening. I'd just like to know what you would do going forward to change that for Britain's 11 million disabled people.
Well, I have a very simple view about this, which is we should do everything we can to help disabled people face as few disadvantages as possible and to get genuine equality in our country. The Disability Discrimination Act was brought forward by my good friend and colleague William Hague 20 years ago, and I think it has led to some really good changes, but you're right, the job isn't done. One of the things I think we need to focus on is, as you say, getting more disabled people into work. This year has been a good year. We've got, I think, 140,000 more disabled people have got jobs. But the gap between the disabled unemployment rate and the unemployment rate for the whole country is still too big. I want to see that cut in half over the next 5 years. And I think we can do that, but we need a culture change from employers as much as from anybody. There are some employers who are absolutely brilliant, who really go out there and want to recruit disabled people because they know if they don't, they're missing out on some of the brightest, best talent in our country. But not all employers are that good, and that's why we've established something called Disability Confident to try and encourage all employers to take this approach. So I would say we've done some good work, we've got more to do, but in the end, it all comes back to the bigger picture of a strong and growing economy. If we keep the economy strong, if we keep creating jobs, we can keep solving some of these issues.
Asking your specific question, we'll come back to the economy. Are you happy with their response, Rosemary?
I'm partially happy with the response, but I still think there's an awful lot more that needs to be done. You mentioned employment. Social care is vital to help people get into and flourish in employment. Year on year, that's becoming more and more difficult. You know, the Independent Living Fund was closed. That really helps a lot of people stay in employment.
That's important that local councils have the resources to do this. We've just established this new fund, the Better Care Fund, that starts on the 1st of April. It's got £5 billion in it to try and bring health and social care together more in our country, and that could help with some of the issues that you're raising. But thank you for the question.
Let's bring in Cara Montero now. Hello to you, Cara. Good evening.
Good evening, Prime Minister.
Just behind the camera there, Prime Minister.
Hello. How are you going to convince the British public to not opt out of the EU?
Well, I think the best way... First of all, Cara, thank you for the question. We were just getting into it with Jeremy back there. Look, I think Britain is at its best when we're out there trading and cooperating and working with others in the world. We are an open country, we're a trading nation, we're part of all the most important networks, whether it's NATO or the G8 or the European Union, and we need them to work for us. But I think the problem with the European Union at the moment, it's got some good aspects, but too many things that drive people mad. People see that it's trying to become too much of a state rather than an organisation. It's trying to take too much power. And I think what we need is a new deal with Europe where we say, look, we want to be in Europe for trade and cooperation. We want that common market that we were promised all those years ago. But we don't want to be part of an ever closer union. Maybe the Eurozone countries with their own currency, maybe they need to do that. We don't. And we're going to keep the pound as our currency. Well, we will, at least if I'm Prime Minister. So if I can get a new deal from Europe, and I believe I can, I've sat around that table for the last 5 years with those other countries. If I can get that better deal, I think there's then a real prospect of saying to the British people, you choose. You can stay in this, on this reformed basis, which would be good for Britain, or if you want, you can leave. But the British public have got to be given another choice. We haven't had one since 1975, and it's time we did.
OK. Remember when we said, Prime Minister, about questions being quite short?
Yes, sorry.
OK, we've got two more. Karen Poole is with us. Hi, Karen.
Hi. Would you like to see more NHS services provided by private companies?
Sorry, Karen, I've lost you. Where are you?
Karen's just here.
Oh, sorry.
Would you like to see more NHS services provided by private companies? Yes or no?
I'm happy if there are charities. If there are charities or independent organisations that can provide a great service, free, as part of the NHS, then I think that, if it's good healthcare, that's what matters to me. I love our NHS. It has done amazing things for my family. I will never forget taking my desperately ill young son, Ivan, to hospital night after night, getting into A&E, getting amazing treatment, everything that they gave him. I want to make sure that that is always there for families in our country. Now, that will always be predominantly a national health service provided by national health service providers. The private sector, the independent sector, is a tiny proportion of the total. I think it's gone from 5% to 6% under this government, a tiny increase. But if there are organisations, like, for instance, Marie Curie Cancer Care or Macmillan Nurses, who provide brilliant care for loved ones, or hospices, which aren't part of the NHS, if there are great organisations like that that are helping our loved ones, and they're free, and the NHS and our taxes are helping to pay for them, that's OK by me.
Lady with her hand up there in the blue dress. Madam.
Hi there.
Just wait for the microphone if you would. There we go. I think we can get a little bit closer to you. There we are.
Thank you.
What would you like to say?
I'm just a little bit confused because I do remember very clearly 5 years ago that you made some very serious pledges about the NHS, and I saw your billboards, it's safe in our hands. The no top-down reorganisation of the NHS, that clearly, the reality has been very, very different. There has been a huge top-down reorganisation of the NHS. The no forced closure of local A&E maternity units was actually in your manifesto. And where I live in my borough, we had to take you and your government to court to keep our hospital open. So I feel very let down with conservative policy on the NHS. And I'm just wondering, if you don't do what you say, what the promises you made last time have been broken as far as I'm concerned. So how can we trust you next time?
What I'd say, the biggest promise we made about the NHS at a time when we were going to have to make difficult cuts in public spending, as anyone, Prime Minister, when I was Prime Minister, would have to do, we said we will not cut the NHS, and we haven't. We've increased spending on the NHS by over £12.7 billion over the last 5 years.
Okay.
And because this is a really important point, can I just quickly... What we did in terms of changing the NHS is we got rid of 20,000 bureaucrats in the NHS, and we put that money into 9,000 more doctors and 7,000 more nurses. And as a result, we're treating more patients. If you take something just like cancer, we're seeing 460,000 more people and looking at their potential cancer than we were 5 years ago. So the biggest promise we made, more money, safeguarding that money and treating more patients, has been kept. And if you elect me again as your Prime Minister with a strong economy, because that's the key to afford this, we'll go on investing in our National Health Service.
OK, Prime Minister, we're almost out of time, but we've just got time for one more quick answer, if you would, please. And that is from Lagdeep Jaychand, who she had actually lost her voice, Prime Minister, but she's persevered tonight so that she can ask you a question in person.
If you could redo one thing from your time as Prime Minister, what would it be?
Oh, if you could redo one thing as your time as Prime Minister, what would it be? Well, there's definitely the thing, as I said, I haven't delivered. I promised better, less noise at Prime Minister's questions, more politeness. That certainly didn't work out. I fully accept that. Look, I think the most important thing I've had to try and do is turn the economy around, get people into jobs, get the deficit down, get the economy growing, because we were on the brink. And I wish that some of the things that we've done, like, for instance, the Help to Buy scheme that has got many more people able to buy their houses, I wish we'd done some of those things quicker. I wish we'd done some of those things sooner, because in the end, you're going to have to make this huge choice, you know, in 42 days' time, who runs the country. And all I'd say, what I've learned in the last 5 years, is nothing that you want to do will work without a strong and growing economy. The schools we want for our children, the hospitals we want when we're ill, those things need the strong economy.
OK, have you ever had 3 shredded wheat?
Have I ever had 3 shredded? I have, actually, but that was a long time ago.
We're out of time. Prime Minister, would you like to show your appreciation?
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. Thank you. Coming next, Ed Miliband will be taking more questions from our studio audience. So do stay tuned to us here on Sky and Channel 4. Thank you, Prime Minister. Appreciate it. Thank you very much indeed.
That last one, normally people ask...